Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to Monster Energy Supercross 3, the official video game, where today we're just going to be discussing the official finale, final, somewhat release of the 2021 Monster Energy Supercross schedule, the real one in real life, because there was a bit of news that came out today that pertains to the schedule, and some things have changed, some things are a bit different, so loaded up the SYS Special 2.0 on the PC here, and just gonna rip some laps while we kind of talk about the schedule. So not really like gameplay oriented here or anything like that, just kind of something to have on while I discuss some of the changes to the schedule, because there's kind of a lot of stuff to talk about, I feel like, with this schedule. So I already did a video that kind of highlighted some of the key details, but here's basically the breakdown of the schedule now that we know in 2021. It's going to start off in Houston on January 16th. We kind of already knew that, so that's nothing new. January 16th, 19th, and 23rd will be the first 3 rounds, all in Houston. And then it goes to Indianapolis January 30th. February 2nd and February 6th will be the second triple header, I guess is what we're calling them, rounds. So 6 rounds into the schedule, just going to Houston and Indy. And then finally we have the newest addition to the schedule. Glendale is off and Orlando is in. So Orlando now on February 13th and February 20th will be the 2 rounds in Orlando. And then Daytona again on March 6th. That was already announced before, so that's nothing new there. The Orlando rounds are a little bit peculiar because it's, you know, the double header, but they're not going to be weekday races. They are 2 Saturday races in Orlando. Then Daytona will be 2 weeks after that. So once Orlando wraps up on February 20th, there's a 2-week break, or 1 weekend off essentially, before they go to Daytona. And then Arlington will be March 13th, March 16th, and March 20th. So that's round 10, 11, and 12. And then rounds 13 through 15 are also new. Those are Atlanta on April 10th, April 13th, and April 17th for rounds 13, 14, and 15. And then the final 2 rounds of the year will be in Salt Lake City on April 24th and May 1st. And yeah, so that is how we get to 17 rounds of Supercross this year. That is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different venues split up across 17 rounds, with the only venue that we go to just one time being Daytona. Every other venue will see multiple rounds at each venue. So yeah, there was some changes, of course. Obviously, Glendale now has been removed. Some of the rounds did move around in terms of dates and stuff like that. And what was kind of, I think, maybe the biggest change outside of venue changing was we were initially going to have Houston and Indy be the first 2 rounds of 250 East, and instead 250 West was going to start in Glendale, and then they were going to have they hadn't announced the rest of the rounds, but there was going to be 6 250 West rounds already announced, 3 in Glendale, 3 in Arlington. Now it's kind of like completely backwards, flip-flopped, odd, strange, whatever you want to call it. It's interesting how this all switched around. So now the first 7 rounds are going to be West rounds. All 3 Houstons, all 3 Indies, and the first Orlando are going to be 250 West rounds, or at least we think, and I'll get to that in a second. And then the the first Orlando, like I said, is going to be a West. Then the second Orlando is going to be the first round of 250 East, and then they go 8 straight rounds of 250 East. So Daytona, the 3 Arlingtons, and the 3 Atlantas following that first Orlando are all 250 East rounds now. Well, remember, Arlington was supposed to be a West round. Now it's going to be 250 East instead. And then the first Salt Lake City round is going to be just a West round. And then the second one, which is going to be a week later from that April 24th date, will be the one and lone East-West showdown. They haven't said anything about Triple Crowns yet. I haven't seen them announce that they are still going to do Triple Crowns or not. We believe that they are, but we haven't seen any official announcements there. So yeah, new schedule definitely shakes it up a little bit for sure, because we were kind of expecting them to at least get out pretty far west. Glendale is only about like 6 or 7 hours from the Pacific Ocean. But now the closest we're going to get is Salt Lake City, which is actually, I think, a little bit more, if I'm not mistaken, west than Glendale actually is. If you go straight up on the latitude slope or whatever you call it. But yeah, no Glendale means that realistically speaking, only Salt Lake City is the farthest west we're going this year, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So number one, but like before we get like too deep into this, yes, I know this is going to become a political discussion. I'm well aware that everyone's going to have an opinion about this, but the reason they are not going to certain states or certain stadiums at this point anymore is because there are more and more restrictions, it seems, coming into place in some of these areas. Glendale, for example, the reason why Feld moved away from going to Glendale was Feld wants to have fans at all these events, even if it is limited capacities. And Glendale, where in Arizona, just outside of Phoenix, where the Arizona Cardinals are playing, and the San Francisco 49ers have also been playing there recently, and they're going to have some college bowl games and stuff like that. They just announced like 4 days ago that they will no longer be having fans in attendance at these NFL games or those college bowl games anymore, and I think that was going to obviously carry over to the Supercross events as well. So having absolutely nobody in the stands at the Glendale venues seemed pretty much guaranteed at this point. And we know that Feld doesn't want to go to these places that they can't have fans, so I think that's why they pulled it off the schedule. So if you're an Arizona fan and you're frustrated because Feld pulled it off the schedule, it really does seem like they kind of had to because of the restrictions that were coming back in place in local government, or just maybe the stadium mandates, and I'm not 100% sure who does what there, but clearly there is some mandates coming down from somewhere that they're limiting capacity in those stadiums to nobody again, and that's why Feld pulled the plug there. Maybe, there was a chance that was going to open back up before those February dates, but they don't like taking those gambles. They were, 2 months out from those February dates, and they wanted some more solidarity if they could. None of this is set in stone either. This could still change if things lighten up, or if they clamp back down in certain places or whatever. And it, at this point, it's nothing to do with your opinion of like the pandemic or anything like this. It's really about the local officials making decisions based on, what they feel is right or wrong with this. So, if a local official decides they don't want fans coming to these stadiums, that's going to deter Feld from going to those stadiums because they want to go places that they can have fans. Peculiarly enough, Atlanta isn't actually going to be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is the new downtown venue that was right next to the Georgia Dome. It's actually going to be in Atlanta Motor Speedway, and we don't know exactly for sure yet what that means. We don't know if it's going to be in the infield of the Speedway or maybe within the little kind of tri-oval thing that they have like they do at Daytona. If they do it in the little tri-oval, it's going to be probably very similar to Daytona, a very long and skinny track. Some of you may remember that Charlotte Motor Speedway did host a Supercross back in the day that was a similar track layout to Daytona. I'd imagine we're going to see something like that. There's 3 Atlantas, remember, all 250 East rounds, but 450 rounds as well. So, that's going to be kind of cool and interesting to see how they design those track maps and what they decide to make out of those. And then, generally speaking, the schedule is kind of like interestingly spread out. So Arlington is going to be March 20th. That's round 12. And then there's, almost a whole month off between Arlington and the first Atlanta, which is April 10th. There's 31 days in March, so that's 11 days at the end of March plus the 10 days at the beginning of April. So that's 21 days essentially where there's going to be no racing or anything to speak of. Kind of a big break there right in the middle of the schedule. Now after that, it does go weekly there, and then like I said, there's that little the hiccup after Orlando all the way to Daytona. There's a 1 weekend off, so basically a 2-week break there. But it does seem like everything else is kind of buttoned pretty close together now. The first 7 rounds will be within a month of each other, essentially. So January 16th to February 13th is the first 7 rounds. So that's kind of interesting and kind of how, close together that's smashed. And, a couple weird things like that. Like I said, we don't know about the showdowns. If there's going to be more than just the one, it does sound like it's just going to be Salt Lake City 2, essentially. That will be the lone showdown for the 250 guys to end the season. We don't know yet about Triple Crowns and how that's going to play out. But like I said, I'm just really interested in the fact that they did have the first, initially speaking, they did have the first 6 rounds of the season scheduled to be 250 East rounds. Now instead it's going to be the first 7 rounds will be 250 West rounds. So I've noticed that a couple of people, namely Michael Lindsay, who's a team manager, popped up and said that kind of screwed his plans a little bit. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of weird backlash from all this. I know that the fans are going to be upset if it doesn't go to their city or what have you. But again, this really does come down to, you know, what Feld can do when it comes to having fans in attendance. You know, the World Series played in Texas, and there's 6 Supercross races in Texas. There's 3 in Florida. Florida's fairly opened up. Georgia, we don't know what's going to happen with Georgia, but at the very least, they're going to try to hold it outside, it seems like, at the Speedway, you know, the same way Daytona is. And then Indy seems to be pretty opened up right now. They've had fans in attendance at all their NFL games, not, you know, max capacity, but limited capacity. And then obviously they had Salt Lake City last year as well. I don't know if they're going to be able to have fans. But they get that stadium for very cheap. In fact, I believe that the Utah Sports Commission actually pays for Supercross to host the final round there as well. So, yeah, you can get upset about, you know, where the locations are and everything like that. But at the end of the day, I think it is just a positive that we're getting racing at all in this, you know, weird times that we're still in with. I mean, a lot of people say this is political, but kind of all over the world, this seems like it's still taking a toll on many major sporting events, and we're still not at full capacity at pretty much anything. Like the F1 race in Abu Dhabi just had no fans over the weekend. So, you know, we're not completely out of the water yet, and who knows what's going to happen for the next 3 or 4 months with all these, you know, FTC approvals and different things like that coming through. Maybe it just gets blown wide open and suddenly we're back to a fairly normal life, or maybe, you know, things get worse. Who really knows at this point? But Feld did need to get a schedule buttoned down now, because we're really, you know, creeping close towards that January date. We're basically a month away from the first round of Supercross now at this point, and they really wanted a schedule buttoned down. So that's kind of the update of the day right here. Hopefully this one makes somewhat sense. If you are confused about it, you want to read more about it, head over to racerxonline.com. Our guy Mitch Kendra put up a great article over there that highlights it, and we have the schedule all laid out as well. TV schedule-wise, we don't 100% know what's going to happen yet, but I would have to imagine that, again, NBC Sports Gold, or whatever they're planning on calling it, I think you're going to go through a name change with that. Over there, so they, you know, they may have, or they're probably going to have every single round live there, but I'm sure NBC Sports Network and, you know, to a degree NBC as well will also host some races. So yeah, we don't know the TV schedule yet. When it comes out, I'll try to maybe make an updated video or something like that to make that more known, make that more aware, what have you. But yeah, finally, 2021 full Supercross schedule released. Expect changes, I would say, for sure. At some point, I don't think that this is going to be completely set in stone. We may see some things open up towards the end of Supercross, and they may go a couple different venues than, you know, the pre-planned triple headers that they have at all these places. But we'll have to wait and see, and just from our perspective as fans, kind of hope that it does work out so that we can get to go to some of these races that are closer to us, and for the ones that are close to you already, I mean, that's, you know, good news for you. If you're in Houston, if you're in Indy, now if you're in Orlando, if you're in Arlington, if you're in Atlanta, and if you're in Salt Lake, and obviously Daytona as well, you suddenly have some races to go to. You know, Orlando people, I think, are going to be pretty stoked. If you're in the Atlanta area, at least you don't have to go right downtown to go to these races. Atlanta Motor Speedway is a little bit out there, so yeah, you know, some positives. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that think this is negative, but again, I'm just happy that we're going to have any schedule, any racing whatsoever in 2021. So that's the update for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions or concerns, please be sure to head to the comment section below and ask them down there, and I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my abilities. But I appreciate you guys stopping by, watching another video here on Start Your Systems. And for Kellen here, we'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.